Listen to the president speaking about this particular matter on when he spoke about reducing the expenditure but also defending the travels that he's been making.
Kuna watu wengine wananipigia makelele, mbona umeenda safari hii, mbona umeenda safari hii. Hiyo ndio kazi yangu ya rais. Mimi ndio chief agent ya Kenya. Mimi ndio ambassador ya Kenya ya kupanga vile Kenya itasonga mbele. Nimepunguza ile pesa ya watu kurandaranda na kuzunguka. Niliona jana watu wa magazeti wanasema nimepunguza milioni 500. Hapana, si milioni 500. Nimepunguza bilioni 11.
All right, and joining us now is the Senator of Narok County, that is Ledama Olekina. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Why the sabbatical? What's going on?
Why? I mean, you know, it's always good to chill and think and reflect about the future. If everything is going down south, then you sit down, reflect, and you plan for a better future.
Right.
That's exactly what I was doing.
So tell me, we're talking about the many travels and the expensive expenditure that we continue to see. And including over the weekend, there's a senior member of parliament who was saying that actually even when parliamentarians are traveling out of the country, they pass by his office and leave him something. We're still trying to find the original clip of that. But what are your thoughts about the foreign agenda of the country and the many travels at a time that the country continues to struggle with domestic issues? What would you say?
I think there are three things to consider here. One, we have three arms of government. And each arm of government has got its own well-thought-out budget. And it is wrong, and really it would be setting a very bad precedent if one arm of government is seen to be controlling the other two arms of government. I take, with great exceptions, the words of the president saying that he will reduce the budget of every government officials, which include even the parliamentary and the judiciary. I think the neater thing to do is that at the National Assembly, when they are formulating the budgets, they need to seriously consider. You see, if you look at county governments as an example, they have what we call CIDP. They plan for 5 years. You know, we cannot just have this knee-jerk reaction to a situation. Right. You've already planned for it, you've negotiated it, you've passed a budget. And budgets, as my colleagues will tell you, are things which are negotiated. So at the inception stage, think through. Ask yourself, are these trips necessary? And to be honest with you, some of those trips are very necessary. You know, they form relations. Today we are here to talk about the visit of King Charles to this country. They form relations. And sometimes we see opportunities. And in most cases, it is better to discuss issues face to face. Of course, I don't support just unnecessary travels that do not contribute to this economy. But sometimes traveling across the world to be able to learn different things and actually coming back and implementing them. You know, I think what we should be asking ourselves is that, what is a budget? Is it reasonable? Does each arm of government does it have its own team that can be able to formulate a budget that can be able to support? And then from there, we have a much sober conversation. But saying that quietly you tell the immigration officers to stop, to deny other arms of government from traveling, or even public officers from traveling, will actually be draconian laws. I think the best thing to do is to have a much sober discussion, agree, and see whether that budget is necessary. If it is not necessary, then you move. In fact, we always have, you know, supplementary budgets. You know, instead of just being seen as being dictatorial, the best way to approach something is to say, we had budgeted to spend X amount of money within local travels. Right. As my colleague will tell you, most cases, the travels which are exhausted are foreign travels. But every year, Parliament or parliamentary committees have a lot of money which is left from local travels. So they have to think and say, can we carry out a supplementary budget? Can we borrow from this line item to this other line item? I think we can do it in a neater way instead of creating a huge hullabaloo about travels. Sometimes they are necessary. Sometimes there are deals that cannot be discussed digitally because of the security. Sometimes it is important to meet face to face and we discuss. You know, we cannot be dealing with issues as if we are only in the 21st century. We also have to consider that for us to be able to succeed in this world, we must walk with one foot in the modern culture and one foot in the traditional culture. If you talk about the Japanese, they prefer to meet face to face. You know, presidents talk on phone. You know, the current occupant of State House travels across the globe. If you ask him in his wisdom, he is making his relations. He's trying to meet these people and try to negotiate for things. Some of us think it's a waste, but he has his own budget. So we cannot be, let me just finalize by saying, it cannot be a knee-jerk reaction. It has to be something that they're not just traveling they're not just pulling money from anywhere. They have budgeted for those travels. So the first place to correct it is at the budgeting stage.
But then again, Senator, even in those travels, I don't know if you remember the time that the former president traveled to the US to meet the then President Trump. And the announcement was that there was going to be improvement of the infrastructure between Mombasa and Nairobi. What was the road supposed to be? Was it a toll road or something like that?
Yes.
To date, that hasn't progressed. So where is accountability, especially of those deals that are signed, including earlier on he was explaining the signing between Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the President, but you're not able to trace the arrival of whatever was signed at that time.
There's always something called the cost of doing business. If you travel, you go to the US, you discuss about the cost of building that road. If you leave that country, you go to the UK, you discuss with them. You know, it is like procurement. When you're procuring for any service, you request for three quotations so that you are able to compare apples to apples. Is it cheaper doing it this way or is it cheaper doing it this way? At the same time, they were discussing about the French building another road, I think the Mau Mau Road. You know, so really, there's got nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with people looking at things and saying, okay, let's negotiate. Deals are discussed for a very long time before you actually sign a deal. You know, some people travel back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You see all these talks on climate change. Sometimes people, like some of us, are critics and we say they are talks about nothing. But to a great extent, they do impact society in a way. Because when you travel, you bring in business. So I think we just have to be reasonable. We don't need to criticize everything when it comes to the issue of traveling. We need to ask ourselves serious questions. Is it necessary?
Okay.
And when we travel, the Maasai says, once you leave your environment and you go to a new area, you become wiser. So I don't think there's something wrong with that.
Okay.